Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters for Anfield Index. What a night, what a tackle, what a game, what a goal, what a head coach, what a team, what a season, and what a crowd. I'm joined as ever by the renowned and the respected David Lynch. And David, the feel-good factor was already high. Last night has tipped that barometer through the roof, hasn't it?
Yeah, just I think I put on the cover of my YouTube video. It just keeps getting better and better because it does. It's kind of ridiculous, really. And every time you think you've reached the peak of how much you're going to be enjoying this season, they come up with another big result, and that absolutely was one yesterday for a few reasons. I mean, so many people had kind of said in the build-up, "Oh, it's not that big a game." I never really bought into that, and I think you could tell from the first whistle it was a big game, and it meant a lot to the people inside Anfield. And to get the win, to get that kind of Real Madrid monkey off your back, to go back to the top of the Champions League, to be top of two leagues now, and also to get a result that absolutely bounces you into the Man City game. I just thought it was absolutely massive for all those reasons, really. So. Yeah, another great Anfield night, and just these great Anfield days, or great days generally, are becoming a bit of a habit under Arne Slot. It's been an incredible start.
Yeah, I mean, literally, we were both there, and it was freezing cold, people, as well, by the way. But you could feel the energy, the heat coming out in the stadium. I mean, it was lively throughout, but that Conor Bradley tackle really was the one that seemed to fire everything, wasn't it? That was the touch paper for the crescendo that came.
Yeah, because I think Real Madrid had actually done at that point kind of a bit of a job of settling things down. I mean, Liverpool started really well, made a few chances, didn't put them away. And then Real Madrid started to have a little bit of possession. They were winning a few free kicks in and around the Liverpool box, and the crowd was getting a bit quieter, a bit more frustrated, which is totally natural, by the way. It can't be 90 minutes of pure noise, but you do have these ebbs and flows. But it sometimes takes a moment to go in Liverpool's favour to get it going again. And sometimes that's what's perceived as a bad refereeing decision or whatever. Or you get a kind of crunching challenge like that in a moment where Liverpool look in a bit of danger because Mbappe is so quick, and he's absolutely outpacing McAllister there. But Bradley kind of comes out of nowhere and gets ball and man brilliantly, flips Mbappe over, and that gets the crowd going. And I think basically from that point onwards, really, Liverpool dominate the remainder of the game. So that's about half an hour in, about 32 minutes, I think. I think they were just well on top from that point after probably a good 10, 15 minutes for Real Madrid there. So for me, I would make the argument it's the decisive moment of the match, really, because it just swings it back in Liverpool's favour. And it's just a brilliant challenge. It's a pure Anfield challenge. You love seeing those types of moments against the biggest teams. I mean, I think back to Neymar being absolutely crunched by James Milner on the touchline for PSG. Very, very similar moment. And again, that ignited the crowd. So, yeah, for me, the kind of decisive moment in the game, really, it teased Liverpool up to dominate the remaining hour and end up with a deserved win.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Lee there, showing some love, which is great. But Conor Bradley, I do want to talk about him a bit more because the challenge I've watched about 64,000 times already this morning. But an assist, just a great all-round mature performance.
Yeah, thought he was phenomenal. I mean, just to as a starting point, I think, your first thing you're kind of concerned about when he comes into the team, not concerned about, I think he's brilliant. And I think, he's a little touch ropey at times against Southampton, but you just think that's rhythm sometimes and not being in the side very much. And you still know how good he is. And I think, one thing you're a little worried about if he doesn't quite have that rhythm is coming up against someone like Mbappe, who can just beat you for pace and has got that going for him, but he's also incredibly skillful, wants to go either side. Your main concern initially was can he do his defensive job, and he absolutely did that as a starting point. I think he just locked him down completely. Very rare. Probably got beat a couple of times just for pure pace on the outside, but didn't allow it to turn into anything. Made sure he got back and kind of fought to make sure he could block the cross or whatever. I think he wins. This is something like 8 out of 12 ground duels, so he's massively involved. wins a few tackles as well and 9 recoveries, I think it is. So his defensive stuff was fantastic. And then the other side of things, which is something I kind of wrote about on Substack today, if people want to check that out, is actually the kind of tweak to his positioning in the second half and Slot forcing him a little further on. I don't want to go into too much detail because maybe people want to look at the Substack to read about it, but that tweak to Bradley's position was kind of crucial, really. He kind of ends up almost as a centre forward at times in that second half, and maybe sees slightly less of the ball, but is just as influential in terms of what Liverpool do, and it makes them better in build up, but more cutting edge in the final third. So he's just a really versatile, clever footballer, really good at taking on the manager's instructions as well. So hugely influential, not just in the defensive side, but what he did in the attacking side, as you say. And I mean, he sent out a bit of a warning with that header that Courtois saves, and then literally a minute later, he's there to set up McAllister for the opening goal. So yeah, phenomenal all-round performance and absolutely man of the match for me.
Yeah, by a country mile. And probably from Northern Ireland's finest to the Republic's finest. I mean, I've put there Kelleher's the best 1.1 going. We can't call him a number 2 because he's just sensational. It's almost downplaying his ability. The penalty save was brilliant. He was brilliant again last night, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, because I mean, he only makes 3 saves in the game, which kind of gives you a flavour of how dominant Liverpool were. But of course, Real Madrid probably get one big chance in the match, and it is the penalty. I mean, it's a soft one for me as well. I will say that. I think Robbo was a bit unlucky there. Really, he doesn't kind of dive in. He just gets near him and gives Vasquez the chance to go down. But obviously, that comes at 1-0, and you think if Real get one there, maybe it just gives them confidence. You know that they don't have to be at the best up to that point to then suddenly come away with winning the game. They're that sort of team. So, if they'd equalised there, that would have given Mbappe a huge lift and just the team in general. So it's a huge moment. And Kelleher comes up again, back-to-back penalty saves now. I know he's unlucky with the one at Southampton, but, it's weird. I was sat there and I kind of fancied him. I don't know. I just thought he's got a chance here. I fancied him more than you usually would with your keeper and a penalties. He's obviously very good at them, which is a starting point. But he just looked like he had Mbappe's number, and yeah, he gets this one away, and it it is a crucial moment because Liverpool eventually then make it 2-0 and wrap it up. So yeah, if you only as a goalkeeper in a club of this level, if you're not that busy and then you come up with a big moment like that, that's what it's all about, really. And one thing I must mention as well on him is, I think 93% pass completion, and he sees a lot of the ball. He's a big part of Liverpool's build-up in this game and trying to play short passes and tempt on the press, and he was really calm in that. So he's really, really helpful. So brilliant all-round performance. And as you say, it feels unfair to call him a number 2 because he's so much more than that. And again, we'll say this on every single podcast we talk about him. Why aren't big clubs in for him? Because they absolutely have to be on the evidence of this run. This is just what he's always been as well. This isn't just he's on a little fluky run of 4 mile. Alisson's out. He is this good. Phenomenal goalkeeper.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant last night. And I mean, speaking of phenomenal, there's the midfielders on show last night. I mean, even because it's right, and you probably clocked this, I like the fact that Anfield gave Modric a good round of applause when he went on, because you just saw Luka Modric's quality up close. Before we talk about Liverpool players, he's class, isn't he? You saw that last night.
Yeah, amazing, really. I mean, I've seen him a few times now live, but I think this is one of the ones kind of I just truly appreciated kind of all aspects of his game, and it's just the way that he's so calm on the ball. You cannot press this guy. It's freakish because he always has 6 options in his mind, and it's kind of mad because when he plays the pass, sometimes you're like, well, that was obvious, that was easy to do that, but it's not obvious to everyone else, and he has to have the picture in his mind before the ball even comes to him. He's just a freak in that. And then the amount of times he nicked the ball in front yesterday, it's like he's telepathic, the ability to sort of read where someone's going to put the ball and get in front. And he's not the quickest. He's still actually kind of surprisingly quick for his age, really, but he's not the quickest. But the amount of times he did that, just an absolute joke of a footballer. And I actually do think Liverpool kind of dominated for most of the game, the central part of the pitch. And yeah, I came away thinking Camavinga and Modric, they are both absolutely class. So it's a bit of a strange one in that regard. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed watching Modric, particularly as he ended up on the losing side.
Class, especially as you said, Camavinga, there's no two ways about it. And for our two that really shone, we'll go to McAllister first, because he's maybe struggled a bit, and I think the injuries played a part, as we've discussed before. But last night, great goal, good on the ball. Really, I wouldn't say back to best, but a class performance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw that tweet that was doing the rounds about McAllister in terms of his lack of goals and assists this season. And I think you've got to, I think that's a ridiculous criticism, because I think he's been a bit up and down in periods. I think the workload he's got at the moment, maybe he's getting to him. But I don't think he's played poorly for Liverpool this season. I think he's in that kind of, he's more in a deeper role, isn't he, as a two alongside Gravenberch. He's all about being a build-up player, and he's unbelievable at that. But he does have goals in his locker, and there's not going to be a reliance on him to come up with goals and assists like there maybe was when he was, last season at Liverpool, where he kind of, you wanted him in their number 8 and he was getting a few assists and stuff. I don't think Liverpool are going to need that from him, but he has got this capability to pop up with a goal, and that is, if you can do it in big games like this, that's massively handy. And I thought, put himself about all game. Really, he's just got that class touch around the ball, hasn't he, in the way he can dictate play. So, yeah, I think there's still, I still feel around it that there's kind of a bit more to come from him, in that I just feel like with the quality he's got, he can get even better. But I still think he's been very, very good this season. And yesterday, that was kind of good to see him get back to close to his best as well, because I think that, as I say, that workload maybe in the past couple of weeks or so has sort of told on him a little bit. But maybe, kind of having that Southampton game largely, not playing all of it, and then coming back into this a bit rested, probably did him a favour, and he looked really, really sharp in this one, and a great finish in a key moment.
Yeah, lovely finish. And it almost seems crazy that we've talked about Modric, Camavinga, McAllister, top level elite midfielders, and Toxter's finest was probably the best midfielder for me on the park. Just, we saw it against Leverkusen, we're seeing it against Real. Oh, we're almost just expecting this a little bit from, because his level's good in these big moments, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. One thing I want to say about this as well is, I cannot tell you how many tweets I've had down the years, last few seasons of, if he wasn't a Scouser, he wouldn't be anywhere near the team. He's a championship level player. Honestly, if you're watching this or listening to this, and at any point you have tweeted that or thought that, you should genuinely just opt out of having football opinions, because it's not for you. Because it's not, like I'm saying, Curtis Jones has always been at this level, but he's been so young, and it's so obvious for a long time that he was going to get to this. All the qualities were there. And under a brilliant manager in Jurgen Klopp, you've seen, development from him. That's continuing now under Arne Slot. And he's now, Slot is kind of, I think he's getting even more out of Curtis Jones, but he's also kind of had a little bit of good fortune that Curtis Jones is also getting a bit older, getting a bit more mature. All those lessons are coming together. And what we are seeing is an elite level European midfielder. And I think sometimes what kind of counts against him is that people kind of don't get him, because he's not like a Steven Gerrard type or whatever, or he's not that kind of deep lying McAllister type who will pull the strings in those positions. He's kind of that very Spanishy number 8, really, is like more of a kind of Isco type, but a bit grittier than that even. So it's just that he's kind of a weird profile, really, I guess, for people to get their heads around as an Englishman, but he's absolutely sensational. And as I say, if he was called Curtis Jones and he was playing for Real Sociedad now, people will be all over signing him. Like he's that level, and he is still only 23 as well. So I mean, that he just proved, I think, again last night, and didn't need to prove it to me because I already thought that about him, but that he is that elite level European midfielder, and he can mix it with the likes of Modric and Camavinga and absolutely stand up to them. So another phenomenal performance. And I will say as well, we've talked about Conor Bradley, Caoimhin Kelleher, and Curtis Jones here, all 3 players who've been in the Liverpool academy at some point. I think that is huge testament to what they're providing, because that has made the squad so much stronger, being able to pull players like that through.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure that Nick will catch on, but it's a good point. Literally, if Curtis Jones was out there in the transfer market now, people will be quoting 75, 80 million, somewhere around that mark. So it plays into that. And look, we've even got rival journos watching in Sam Maguire. So afternoon, Sam, at the same time as well. Now, this one's a good reminder, I think, as well. This is important. There's that famous Ronnie that did the round. So whenever someone missed like Rushy in training, Ronnie Moran would always defend his favourites and say, even the best miss, that's what's happened. And to be fair, in world football terms, it was just a good reminder that Mbappe, Salah, even the best miss on occasions, don't they?
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we've seen Mbappe bag a couple of those in a World Cup final, but the pressure of Anfield was seemingly too much for him, or Big Caoimhin in goal. So that was a nice moment for Caoimhin to be able to do that. But also, yeah, I think with Salah, he kind of, again, I think you look at the size of Courtois, and it seems to kind of be in his head a little bit that, you know, it's just, he's very difficult to beat, isn't he? And I think, you know, Salah would have loved to score against Real Madrid, wouldn't he? With the kind of heartache he's had against him, he would have absolutely loved to have bagged that one. But, you know, you can miss him. And if you are going to miss one, in a game that ends up in a 2-0 win, you'll take that, because you think he's probably not going to miss one for a while now, Mo Salah, because he rarely does. So it's quite probably nice that he's got it out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'd say you'd stick serious money on him getting the next one. And there is a sad element to last night, and I'm hoping you're going to raise the tone a bit here, because obviously we're all watching Ibu kind of limp off, then he goes with Doc Power, he stops, and we're like, come on, just walk, we need you this season. Bradley holding his hammy went off, but was applauding the fans. Is there any update or anything you've heard around Conor Bradley, Ibu Konate, any injury updates at all?
Yeah, so kind of heard the rumours that Konate not maybe as bad as he first feared, and Bradley probably is a hamstring injury that's going to take a while. I mean, I would say with Bradley, I'd be absolutely amazed if he's involved against Man City. Genuinely amazed. I think if you have a hamstring injury, that is going to be a couple of weeks at the bare minimum. So he'll have had a scan. By the time we get to the press conference, I'm sure Slot will be able to give us an update. But as I say, with a hamstring injury, I'd say if everyone rules him out of the Man City game at the minimum in the minds, and it's probably going to be a little bit longer than that. But, you know, obviously Joe Gomez is there. Trent Alexander-Arnold's coming back. That's a blow Liverpool can probably absorb. I think the bigger worry would be Konate, with how important he's been this season. And the suggestion is, the early kind of suggestion is that it's not too bad. So maybe even in with a chance to face Man City, which, I mean, he'd be over the moon with that one if that is the case. Because, you know, the way he's kind of feeling his knee, you know, I was reading a little bit, you know, about kind of the analysis of that it kind of, if you get a bang in the side there, it's more likely to be your MCL, which, you know, you can be doing a couple of months with those sorts of injuries. So that was a worry. So, you know, if the kind of rumours are to be believed, it's not that bad, and maybe be in contention to face Man City, which, yeah, will be an absolutely huge boost, because, you know, that, you know, you need someone like that to marshal Haaland. I know City have got problems, but that guy's an absolute freak. So, you know, you need your best central defenders there. So, you know, hopefully we hear from Slot that is the case, and hopefully with Bradley he won't be too long on the sidelines.
Yeah, fingers crossed that both the rumours are kind of true on that, and we won't have long to wait, because Arne Slot is 3:00 today, an unusual time. But there we go. And you did mention them there. City, that is the big game. So focusing turns to another massive occasion. This is a dangerous question, I know, and it's almost a leading one. On paper at the moment, is it the perfect week to play City? I.e., they've had a run of defeats that you could almost say they stopped the flow against Feyenoord, but they were 3-0 up and then drew 3-3. We're bouncing the way they are. Is timing everything? Is this a good time to play Manchester City?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you know, I've got a few friends who kind of, in a few WhatsApp groups, kind of like, oh, well, you know, they've dropped points again against Feyenoord. That means they're going to come bouncing into Anfield, absolutely determined to get a result. But they were determined to get a result against Feyenoord. And the thing is, for me, is that I don't care how determined City are when they turn up, you can't mask a lack of legs. You know, City are not going to come and turn up and play the complete opposite of Pep Guardiola football in terms of just sitting in, trying to hit on the break, trying to be that sort of team. They just I don't think he can coach a team like that. That's not a criticism, by the way. Why would he ever need to with the teams he has? It's not something he's needed to do or will even want to do. And I think that's, City's best chance of a result would be to do that. But I don't think that's how they're going to approach the game. And so all those weaknesses are there, the lack of confidence. And, even when they come bouncing into Anfield, they've really found it hard. I mean, they deserved to get beat by Liverpool last season when, they ended up being the champions and finishing quite a bit ahead of Liverpool. And they were probably a much more balanced side than Liverpool were. So now, the reverse is true, that Liverpool are clearly flying, City are struggling. It's Anfield. As I say, you can't mask those lack of legs, and they won't have the home crowd getting on top of them. I just think everything's set up for Liverpool to go there and I'd say a statement result, but they've already made a statement with the results they've got so far. But I think to kind of put the foot down really and kind of push City out the title race completely in December. So yeah, I think it is a perfect time to play them. And I think as much as you can talk about a City response, I think there's only so much you can do with the problems they've got in central midfield, and they can't sign any players before the weekend. So I think Liverpool should be full of confidence coming into this.
Yeah, and fingers crossed. And the one thing I did want to ask you, because you mentioned the player that probably will carry, without doubt, their biggest threat, Erling Haaland. We're waiting news, as you say, on Konate. If Konate is absent, are you assuming Joe Gomez will come in? And have you got the confidence him and Van Dijk together will be able to shackle Haaland as a pair?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because Gomez does seem to be slightly ahead of Jarell Quansah in that kind of pecking order. And I wonder if that's the reason, maybe that kind of, I don't know. I guess I think we've seen Gomez against Haaland in terms of he's not going to out-muscle him, is he? But he can marshal him for pace in terms of that getting in behind. Obviously, the headed threat you kind of worry about, but I still think Gomez is capable in that. But it's that pace and the ones in behind where you think that Gomez probably slightly better than Quansah at dealing with those situations. So, and Quansah just is a little bit down that pecking order. So I do think it would be Gomez, but I mean, fingers crossed it's going to be Konate and he's fine to start it. But you'd have full trust in Gomez in a game like this where, you'd hope Liverpool can dominate the ball as well with the problems City have got, that, with City playing it on the deck and approaching it in that way, that Gomez is more than capable of doing the job.
Yeah, and he had a brilliant second half when he replaced Konate against Brighton as well. So, yeah, you would fancy, but fingers crossed, Ibu is fit. That's the main thing. And the one final thing, aside from this Konate-Gomez potential question, can you see much rotation? Have you even got a fancy that it looked quite good actually when Diaz went false 9 last night, in all honesty? Are you seeing much rotation for this one at all?
I think probably not, to be honest, because obviously at left back you haven't got any options. I think if Konate's fit, he stays in there. I think you're going to have to make a change at right back. I don't think there's any doubts about that. So maybe we see Joe Gomez there if Konate is okay, actually, or hopefully Trent would be ready. That would be a nice boost. But the kind of, I think with Núñez coming off quite early yesterday, that suggests to me he's going to be straight back into the starting lineup against Man City. And I think the one change we are guaranteed to see is we'll see Szoboszlai come back in. I in my kind of predicted 11 for the Real Madrid game, left him out of that one on the basis that he ran himself into the ground against Southampton. It was a phenomenal performance, left everything out there. And so I kind of thought, you've got to acknowledge that and leave him out against Real Madrid. But for me, he has to be in the 11 against City. I've spoken about all the midfield problems, the lack of legs and physicality they've got in central areas. You can't leave someone like Szoboszlai on the bench for a game like this. Now, the big question is if Szoboszlai does come in, which is what I'd expect, who do you take out? Now, Gravenberch definitely starts, but that McAllister-Jones competition is tight. And that'd be really interesting to see what the manager does there. But for me, in terms of rotation and that's not forced by injuries, Szoboszlai coming back in is an obvious pick for me and one I expect. But I think it gives the manager a really tough decision to make.
Yeah, it's just great to have these options and that legs in midfield at the moment. It will be interesting to see who does get the nod. And this is crazy that after everything that's happened, we're nearly 25 minutes into this pod, we've not mentioned the main man who is tearing up all records at the moment as well. Is, a perfect record in the league, what we're doing in the Premier League as well. I mean, the one thing I did want to ask you a bit different. He did his press conference after the Mo Salah comments. He knew that was coming, but I know you were in that press conference and you were up at Anfield watching the training. He was his press conference. He was calm. He was assured. It's exactly what we wanted to see, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just think we really are seeing the best of him now in these scenarios. I think, there's a little bit of nervousness there at the start when he's coming into new faces and a new country and new journalists that he's kind of up against, and obviously that extra sort of scrutiny you face in the Premier League. But he's, it helps that he's getting unbelievable results. But that has kind of settled him down, and he just seems full of confidence. He seems relaxed in these scenarios, ready for any question. And the fact is, if Liverpool was struggling this season, those Salah and Salah was still scoring as he is, those questions would be even bigger and harder to answer, because he'd be like, well, think how bad you're going to be if he goes. So it does make it a little bit easier for him that he can be relaxed around that and think, well, we're flying anyway, let's just keep going. So that helps. But I do think, you're seeing his kind of his class and his intelligence in these scenarios, and his ability to kind of just laugh off the questions and throw in a little joke. And he's not as gregarious as Klopp with it, but he's funny. And as I say, I think it just speaks to how relaxed he is now. And we really are seeing a kind of the best version of Arne Slot now that he's settled in.
Yeah, I love that line as well. If you look, Mo Salah's more in than out my lineup. So yeah, that was a well worth a clip up. No two ways about it. And the final one I want to ask you, I have zero doubt you've seen this doing the rounds. And fair to Anfield Watch, it just seems to be their exclusive around Virgil van Dijk. Suggestions that he has signed a contract, and there's even more buzz that, and I'm probably just stretching too far here, but there may be news on this in the imminent future as well. Is this me praying? Is this me reaching? Or have you heard anything at all?
So I can't say personally I've heard anything, but it just would not surprise me if this one gets wrapped up. I just think, we spoke about this so many times that, he's desperate to stay. It's a kind of reasonable deal for Liverpool to do. And one that's kind of within, you could easily see is within their kind of limits to get done with very few problems. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the one that was kind of wrapped up first, because it's the least complex of the three as well. And he's always said he wants to stay. Liverpool have always said they want to keep him. So and I think to just get one done would be massive, by the way. I just think it takes so much pressure off the other two. It just kind of gets you a little bit closer, and also shows to Salah and Trent as well. Look, the world's best centre-half is going to stay for a few more years. Are you boys sticking around or what? So I think it kind of sends that message. So like I say, I personally haven't heard anything, but yeah, hopefully we start to get some news filtering through soon, because these have got to be close. At least one of these has got to be close now. It's been going on for a little while now. So fingers crossed he's the one that gets over the line first, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, we have said repeatedly on these pods there's still time, but that time is just starting to nudge towards that January window, and that when they can agree pre-contract. So yeah, anything would be nice. And the final question comes with a bit of inspiration from Lewis Steele of the Daily Mail and others. So Anfield is that cold at the moment. Will it be a sort of standard coat and scarf number, or will it be the big Arsene Wenger jacket, do you think, for Sunday?
Are you trying to get me to admit that I wore knee warmers last night? Because I'm not ashamed of that fact. It's absolutely sick of having freezing cold knees, so I had knee warmers on yesterday, and I do not regret it. So to be honest, it was freezing yesterday, but it's not too bad when it's not as late in the day. So I'm kind of I'm hoping Sunday won't be anywhere near as bad as it was last night. But I'm always prepared. I've always got about 6 layers on, so I won't be getting caught out by that. And hopefully the result and the atmosphere will warm us up as well.
Yeah, indeed. I'm not going to lie. I would have taken knee warmers all night last night in the Annie Road. That wind was blowing and it was freezing. So yeah, there you go, people. But there we are, ladies and gents. We keep saying this. We cannot be blasé. We cannot take it for granted. But it's another Liverpool game. It's another Liverpool win. And we are bouncing into these one after the other. So all it leaves me to say, so we can get in the car and drive up to the AXA, is for the time, the insight and the answers. David, much appreciated.
No, absolute pleasure, particularly as we keep talking about wins. Let's hope we're doing another one on Monday as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And ladies and gents, that was another Media Matters for Anfield Index.